Welcome to the Sandhills Baptist Association podcast with Don Cherry, sharing stories of churches working together for the gospel.
Well, good morning. Glad that you have joined us today. I'm Don Cherry with the Sandhills Baptist Association here in Moore County, North Carolina. And we're grateful that you've decided to join us today. Look forward to this time of podcasts and communicating information out toward the community. And this morning, I have Tom Kakadelis, who is with the North Carolina Family Policy Council. Tom, thanks for being with us today.
Well, thanks for having me, Don. I appreciate it.
And I believe North Carolina Family Policy Council, their parent organization is the Family Policy Council out of D.C. with Tony Perkins, correct?
Well, we have a sisterly relationship. So each of our local, statewide family policy councils are all independent.
Okay.
They work under, some of them are participating together with what's called the Family Policy Alliance, which is a larger group of them. But the Family Research Council out of Washington, D.C., with Tony Perkins and them, was the original organization that Dr. James Dobson started way back in the early 80s when he was flying back and forth from LA to DC, trying to advocate for families and for biblical values in the marketplace back then.
Right. And with this being an election year, I'm sure those are hot subjects, hot topics that are being discussed, both on the local all the way to the federal level, at this time coming up. So at this time, Tom, I just wanted to get from your perspective, I think, as far as North Carolina, I think, what are some of the primary issues that are either family related, spiritual related, such that you are advocating, I'll just use that word, there in Raleigh, on behalf of Christians today?
Right. That's a great question. Well, our organization foundationally is about really envisioning a state where God is honored, life is cherished, families thrive, and there's a sense within our communities that when a civilization or a state or a country identifies these values as being core, then they typically thrive in every area of life. So with that sort of compass as our foundation, the North Carolina Family Policy Council, or we typically say North Carolina Family now, NC Family basically advocates for those critical issues. Now, we call ourselves a grassroots, a grass tops organization. There are grassroots organizations, and those organizations typically gather people for events and conferences. Our goal is to build those relationships with legislators and the influencers and stakeholders in Raleigh to frame and structure legislation and the like that is going to be consistent with family values and biblical values. Right now in North Carolina, 2026, we're facing more issues related to the importance of and centrality of the family. By that, there are a number of different bills and amendments to bills that relate to women in men's sports, boys and men in female spaces, safety of that. There's a number of amendments and ideas that center around how do we keep government out of the influence of churches and still have order, right? So there's a little bit of it is a reaction to what happened in COVID, because there was a number of things that churches were surprised by, didn't realize government could have that kind of impact quickly. But then there's other ones where we see, for example, in the last few months, 2 incidences that were basically ignored by the Cabarrus County school system that where there was identifiable, clearly evidence of men going into women's bathrooms and women's private spaces. And then those 2 schools in the Cabarrus County area, the Cabarrus County school system completely ignored it. So in order to protect families and vulnerable people, and especially women in these spaces, the legislature has decided they need to step up into that and to pass legislation in the state that would make it unequivocal that school systems need to stop this
Political correctness.
well, it's
or
whatever
even
you want to
beyond
call
that.
it, and recognize that there are predators that are taking advantage of this leniency.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we understand the difference between male, female. You know, God
Right.
created them. You know, and such like that. So given that reality, which is not only biblical, you know, but is also science. I mean, science is very clear on this. You know, you're a man because of this, you're a woman because of this. You know, what is the argument then from the side that during COVID, like you said, we got to follow the science, but they don't want to follow the science on this?
Well, and that's a really good question. The challenge of it all is this: there's everything. You know, as we were talking about this the other night, politics is not the makeup of 2 words, one poly meaning many, and ticks being blood-sucking insects.
That's right.
So that's not what politics is. Politics it comes from the root word, a Greek word that comes meaning, it has to do with the city, the polis, and it's the way the city agrees to function. What's happened is that these moral issues, because they are not completely biblically founded in the lives of the majority of people in many places, they've ignored those biblical principles and have gone to what we in the past would have called something like a secular humanist or a situational ethics approach.
Right.
So what appears to be very inconsistent in one area compared to another is actually not, because the new idea about this is that I have my truth and you have your truth. Okay. So if you see it this way, that's just the way you see it.
Right.
The way I see it is this. So I can have 2 counter beliefs, 2 conflicting beliefs over very similar topics, and still hold both those values or both those opinions, because that's just the way I see it.
Right, right. And so I guess that is what would negate, well, look at the science. Man is
Doesn't
man.
matter if it's science.
Exactly. It's
Whose
how I
science
feel.
are you talking about?
It's how
is
I feel.
Right.
Correct, correct.
So in the area of science, let's just talk about that for a second. The whole area of being scientific about it is this. These issues were not a concern to people when there was a general cultural acceptance for just 2 biological sexes. When it was introduced that people have either homosexual tendencies, bisexual tendencies, other sexual tendencies, in order to accommodate them and not consider them to be odd or out of the mainstream or inconsistent with cultural thinking, is they wanted to be inclusive about loving the person,
Right.
but accepting, but not accepting necessarily criminal behavior, but accepting private behavior.
Right.
So it gets back to that old saying that has been going around now for a number of years: my body, my choice.
Right.
So I am God over my own body.
Correct.
And so I can decide what I want to be. If I want to be a male or female, I can decide that. That's a cultural construct. It is not a biological construct.
Right.
So the way that you are plumbed or the way your DNA is altered is not based on what you are. You decide who you are because you're God over your own body.
Right. And of course, that would come from the mindset that I have rejected God. I've rejected that teaching, and I have become my own God, which,
Right.
Scripture tells us that's going to take place in the latter times.
Well, and that's also going to be a part of what selfishness grows into.
Sure.
Selfishness grows into that I can decide all those things for myself, and I don't need a guidebook, an ancient guidebook to do that. But what we've done is we've gone back to some basics. Like, for example, right now, if you ask 1,000 Christians what the 10 Commandments are in order, 1,000,
Yeah.
you'd only get one
One
who
out
would
of
be able to
1,000.
do it. 1 in 1,000 Christians can name the 10 Commandments in order from memory.
Oh my goodness. With that, I want to segue just a little over here because you mentioned the cultural construct and how things are different and everything. You and I have been in the ministry 50 years now. We're the war horses. We're the old guys, that when we were youngers we looked up to because of their experience and such as that. I'm just going to ask it in a question form and all. This cultural construct, have we seen it take root or even maybe take precedent in churches today?
No doubt it has in some ways. I would say because, especially in most evangelical and certainly most Baptist churches, you're seeing that there's still this call back to a biblical foundation. So in most cases, a biblical foundation leads you to some of these conclusions that are counter to culture. The Bible has been counter to culture for the entire 2,000 years it's been in existence, or longer. And it continues to be a countercultural statement because we know from our own discovery, and not just our own observance, but from biblical statements, that we've all fallen short of the glory of God.
Right.
We are, none of us is righteous in our own way.
Right.
And so because we are born with this propensity to sin, we need something to tell us no. And in our culture today, the word no means you don't love me anymore.
Right. Right.
And so parenting has taken on a different view. The culture has taken on a different view. So saying no to somebody or in some way disagreeing with somebody's opinion is somehow communicating that you don't love them. But nothing could be further from the truth. Right. Parents discipline and correct their children because they love them.
Right.
And so a culture sets limits for the protection of people because we are called to love one another as neighbors.
Right.
So in part, I think what you're addressing about cultural constructs is that we have now, as a culture, basically said, we don't need a book. We've got this. And so we're going to live by whatever the prevailing winds of opinion might be.
Right.
And unfortunately, it typically runs down the wrong hills.
I know we've used and heard the term, we can agree to disagree. It's almost like that's out the window now because, as you said, if I disagree with you, well, if you look at it from just a secular thing, not only do I not love you, I hate you.
Right.
And all. And that couldn't be further from the truth, because you're never going to get two people in a room to agree 100% on everything.
That's right. Right. That's the challenge. And we at NC Family, we want to promote a good quality of life for all the citizens of North Carolina and for the state. So our goal is, from a biblical perspective, we use Christ as the center with a biblical worldview. We continue to encourage families to connect to a local church, get involved in the public square, speak up your views when you have the opportunity, get engaged, And then if necessary and you have the propensity to do it, run for office, get involved in the public square, and we encourage pastors as well as lay people to do that.
I remember Jerry Falwell some years ago. Remember when they had the old super conference? Down there in Lynchburg,
Yeah.
And I remember at one of those, he got up and he made mention. He said, "We need to get Christians in office."
Right.
He said, "Even if you run for dog catcher, get in there, because if we don't run, then the other side gets in."
Well, your point is well made, but what oftentimes running for office scares most people.
Right.
The short answer to that is this: don't intend to run for anything right now. Just go attend the meetings. If you go to a city council or town council meeting or commissioners meeting, county commission meeting, you go to a school board meeting, the health department meeting, the land use meetings, go to these meetings and listen, and then get to know the people that are influential in those places, and see if you can't help move the needle in a direction that is beneficial to all North Carolinians and all citizens. And then, if the Lord prompts you to get more involved, help another campaign, at least for starters, and contribute to something. And then after that, make a decision. Maybe it is that you're being called to run. You may not be called to serve. You may be called to run, but you may not win.
Right.
But the first time you may not win, but then you may win the second time or the third time. So these offices need godly people with strong convictions that are personable, hospitable people, welcoming people to get engaged in the public square. And so we encourage that all the time.
That is something I think is fearful for people and everything. Well, how do I do this? How do I have enough money to do this? What if I lose? Well, if I remember, Abraham Lincoln lost a few elections.
He lost all of them, I think, pretty much before he became a senator.
President.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think you have to look at it this way, and that's why we at North Carolina Family do this, is we want to continue to encourage, inform, alert, equip, and then mobilize people to be involved.
Yeah.
And the reason that we do that is because there needs to be a voice out there and a place where you can go to get the resources you need to get involved. So if you want to, if you're a pastor, because I work as pastor outreach director for North Carolina Family, if you're a pastor, then you need to text me, call me, email me, and I'll be glad to get in touch with you, meet with you, or a group of pastors or a group of people in the community. And that's my role, is to do that, to help keep you informed and alerted about these things, and then equip you and mobilize you to do it. So that if not this area, how do you help your congregation stay informed? We have a wonderful award-winning magazine that's available that I'll make sure you have a way to get that promoted. And then all you need to do is sign up. We send it twice a year. It comes to your door. We don't solicit through it. So it's really there for an informational thing, and it gives you a legislative breakdown on what's happening. It gives you cultural articles that help you, and then it allows you to get engaged as much as you want.
What's the simple address to get a hold of North Carolina Family Policy
Great
Council?
question. Okay, so our website is ncfamily.org.
Okay.
ncfamily.org.
Okay.
And then mine is simply Tom K, Tomk, at ncfamily.org. You can email me.
Okay, great. Sounds good. Well, folks, thank you for being with us today. Tom, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
I hope this has been some good information that will get out there. We'll certainly see. But again, this being a election year, two things I'm going to tell you. Number one, pray. Everything, let God be in control of this. But secondly, if you're registered, you get out there and vote. Everything. You don't sit home and think that your vote is not important, because it really is. So make sure that you are registered, and make sure that you maybe even get somebody to come along with you, okay? Thanks again for being with us. Don Cherry here, the Sand Hills Baptist Association in Moore County, North Carolina. See you next time.
Thanks for listening. For more information or to leave a comment, you can reach us at 910-947-2238 or send an email to sandhills@sandhillsbaptist.org.